Hello my friends, welcome to the metal shop. Today we're working on the Beck Soloist SL4X, doing some upgrades, make this a little bit better. All the things on the guitar that we touch that we want to upgrade to more like a American made soloist. So starting with the back of the guitar, I just noticed the tuners look like they have that little bit of plastic coating over the top of them. It looks like they do. I'll have to peel that off. Maybe I'll leave it. Anyway, so we're going to install this Alnicov. It's funny because as a guitarist I want to call it an Alnicov 5, but it's an Alnicov. I don't know if it's Russian. Tremolo stabilizer, and this is just sitting in place. It's loose. I just removed the spring to see if it was going to fit. And these things are cool. It's going to essentially block the trem, but you'll still be able to float with it. Have a black real Floyd Rose brass block. This one's 32 millimeters for the recessed. And I believe how this works, there's three sizes. The 32 is for the full recess. The 37 is for the partial recess, where it sits almost flush with the body, but there's still a recess cut into it. And then we have the 43, which is the big one, which is for non-recessed, which is what I prefer. So we'll be doing that. I have an old school screw-in arm, which I prefer to the collared variety. We're going to put that on. I do have fine tuners, real authentic Floyd Rose fine tuners. I'm not sure if they're different than the ones that come on the Floyd Rose, whatever, the 1000, or I think it's the 1000, that cheap series there. I'm actually going to get our micrometer and measure these to see if I'm going to switch these or not. Once we get to the front side, we'll talk some more, but I have some real Gotoh knobs here. And these, you can just tell the difference. These are solid brass. They have the heft, the weight, the feel, versus the ones that come on the guitar have plastic inserts. They're junk, quite honestly. And you find all the little areas here where they pinch pennies. And one of the ones I talked about is this input jack. You see how it's recessed like that? That's import. That screams import. I don't know what it is about it, but they have these little recessed input jacks. And quite honestly, this thing is, so I have a real Gotoh one here, and it's twice the thickness of this one. Really tough to see, but this is just like, now this one, to get it to fit, I've put it on here. I did have to put it in the vise here just with a cloth. You just stick it in the vise like so, tighten it up, give it a little bend, a little tweak to make sure that it fits the body perfectly. Another little kind of aside here that I wanted to show was, look at the screws that came off the import input jack. They're huge. So I'll reuse them because the holes in the guitar are already there. But these are the ones that came with the Gotoh. Look how little those are compared to the ones there. So, but these little things, again, are you going to really notice this? You will, when it's the whole picture. You plug the guitar in, you see this cheap little thing here. This is how they pinch the pennies on these guitars. I have real brushed aluminum plates on order for these. I had to have those custom made because, of course, they don't match up. This plate is just off size. It's a Jackson, Ontario size plate, but doesn't quite match up. This plate is the right size. The trem plate is exactly the right size, but the screws are in the wrong place. So, yeah. So we're going to get this put on, and then we'll flip the guitar over, and we'll go over a few more things. All right, so got the input jack changed out. No big deal there. Came out pretty nice. Nothing super exciting. Got the guitar flipped over. Oh yeah, I should notice I did put on the Schaller strap locks as well. And that's just because all my straps have the Schallers on them. You know, I always say the little things, all these little things. Randy Rhoads got it. He always had Schallers on his. He always had pointers on his knobs, his Little, you know, pick guard has name on it. The little things, you know, the little details make the guitar. So what else we got going on here? Told you about the knobs. These crappy knobs, they don't have a good transition. It's a hard edge, and you can just tell these feel light and cheap. And look at this, how much they move in there, you know, and I bet you anything this will just pluck right off. Of course, it's gonna prove me wrong. Well, oh, and go flying. But yeah, if you look inside that thing, plastic cheapness. These are junk. You know, maybe this 5-way switch has got a little burr on it. Maybe take that off, hit it with a file, you know. Now the pickups. So I was going to change these out for some real Duncans, but I did a little research. I played the thing. I did a video, the demonstration video. They sound great. And the research that I did showed that these Duncan designed HR 101, HR for hot rails or hot rod, whatever you want to call it, are actually higher powered than the Duncan pickups themselves, and they do a really nice job. Some of these pickups now, these off-brand pickups, they're doing a much better job. Back in the day, you know, I don't remember the crappy version of the EMGs that were passive that were really not good. The original Duncan designed way back were really not good. The Paul Reed Smith pickups on the original SE guitars were not good, and I know that, you know, Paul Reed Smith sent a bunch of engineers over there and like, no, let's get these pickups right, and they're doing a lot better job. But I've got a really good deal here on this set of real Duncan pickups. What I didn't realize is the mounting. Now, these are designed for a Strat, go under a pick guard, and you'll see the shape of them. These, only the one under the pick guard, these are the Telly style mounting here with the kind of the triangle in the back, which kind of threw me there for a little loop. So, plus, like I said, they sound great, so we're just gonna ride it out and see if those are gonna work for me. I am gonna buff the logos off, and I'm not trying to hide anybody or hide anything. I don't like the way the logos look. I want this thing to look old school, like it's from the 80s. And all you got to do there, you know, Duncan humbuckers, Duncan designed, whatever, get yourself some plastic polish, some finesse it, some sort of buffing compound, and a rag, and buff that logo right off, and it'll look better. Screw this one way down as far as it would go, out of the way. I don't use it. Now this one, the one issue that I did have is it's really sharp. Not enough tape around the windings, and my palm is always catching on that. So what I am going to do is I bought a roll of humbucker tape, super cheap on Amazon. So I'm going to go over the pickup a few times while I have this torn apart. All right, so a couple of tips when you're going to take off your Floyd here, which I'm going to take off to replace the bar, and I'm going to put on the big brass sustain block, and I'm going to put on that trem setter, the Alnicov, or Alnicov 5 trem setter. Anyway, so what I do, you slack the strings in real good shape here and lock the nut that holds, so, you know, so this strings don't go all over the place, they don't fall off your tuning pegs, whatever. Do 2 at a time, get your hand under them, pull them up so that they feel nice and even, lock off that clamp. Take yourself a picture of your setup, or take some notes. You only have to take off the middle 4 saddles to get to the 3 Allen screws for the sustain block. But for example, like this one, this is on the middle set screw, and the saddle's all the way up. That's pretty easy. Make a note. This one, it's on the last set screw, and it's all the way up. This one here is on the middle set screw, all the way up. This is the only one that's maybe slightly difficult. It's on the forward set screw, and it's part of the way up. But anyway, you know, this is going to look like a set of stairs. Your intonation is a compromise at best, but you want to take a picture, make some notes, get your setup. Get yourself one of these. Bought this from StewMac. This is a spring puller. This thing is invaluable, this little hook here. And it just makes your life easier when you're pulling off these stupid springs and reinstalling them. Cheap, innovative little tool here. I really like these. I can't remember who made these. I bought a bunch of these back in the day, actually in the 80s. I put some tape on, blue tape, just so it's more visible. They have both your hex keys. This thing, they have these little things that'll clamp on the back of your headstock too, but I just like these because you're not fumbling around for Allen wrenches all over the dang place. All right, my friends, stand by. All right, so now your Floyd is off. No big deal at all there. This, your bar assembly, gonna pop right off with a 5mm. Your larger one, just like your locking nut there, will pop the bar assembly right off. And the same, is that the 5 or the 3? I think these are the 3. Yep, the 3mm will take your saddles right off. And again, you only have to remove the 4. So you get your notes done, and these are not, it's not super tight. Tough to do with one hand there. And I ran these back down after I popped the strings off, just so that we don't lose our blocks. And of course, now I have to loosen them to get the saddle off. But I want to show you, yeah, that's okay, that's off now. Spring, the little springs here will kind of hold it in place. Can leave, yeah, this is a good tip too. You can generally leave the screws, the set screws in place. And yeah, the lesser Floyd here, tough to see. It has, they are Phillips headed screws that it has holding the spring block on, not Allen screws like the real Floyd. This is the Special or the 1000 or whatever. So anyway, we're just going to pop these 4 off, change out the block. Not really rocket science. 3 screws holding on. Keep everything, your spring plate lined up. You've got a spacer here. Keep everything aligned. Not really a big deal. And we'll pop that one on. All right. Cool. Before I forget, quick tip. Keep your saddles lined up where they go. Original Floyd has 3 different height saddles to give you the arch that you want for your radius. They have a 1, a 2, and a 3, and the original Floyds are marked with slashes. I looked at these, and this, if you look real closely, it's tough to see there, but there's a number 2 on this one. Yeah, there is. So anyway, keep them lined up because they are, the height is graduated. And I think what you have is, you have, I think you have 1s on the outside, then 2s, then 3s. Yes, I believe that's correct for the graduated height. Anyway, just keep them lined up as you took them off. Put them back on exactly the same way. Easy peasy. All right, just for clarity, I want to show you how these saddles are marked. These are original Floyd saddles here, real German made. And if you look, 2 hash marks, 1 hash mark, no hash mark. And we're talking about right there. 2, 1, 0. So there's your graduation for your radius, your bridge radius there. Now, the ones I took off the Floyd Rose Special, it took me a minute to decipher them. Let's put this here. This one has, that makes it impossible to see. There's a number 2 in this circle up here, 2. So these go, there's 0, there's no marking on it. Then there's a 2, and then the center ones, and I measure them with the calipers, and they are different, has a 1. Can you see the 1 there in the circle up there to the left? So Floyd Rose Special graduated no marking, 0, 2, 1. 0, 2, 1. Whereas the Floyd goes 2, 1, 0. Anyway, I mean, just some nerd trivia, but you want to get them back the same way. And some old Floyds will even have like a spacer in here, like a shim, covering these screws, just to give you, depending on if it's on a Fender guitar with a much more curved radius, you're going to need a spacer, a shim in here to meet that radius. Jacksons are very flat. I think the compound, they're like a 10 to a 16, that 16 being very, very flat. No shim on these as well. So just some nerd trivia. I'm not going to show you. We're going to pop this off. We're going to put the block on, put this whole thing back together. But just cool. If you're into Floyds, you're into guitars like me, this stuff is cool. You'll find it cool. All right, so just real quick, have the Floyd screw-in arm post, arm fixture, whatever you want to call it, installed. A little bit of a pain in the ass, but Floyd Rose, Schaller in Germany that makes these, does things right. This is shot peened somewhere in here so that when you're tightening it on, it's like the threads, it's locked on so that it won't fall off. Make sure when you're installing it, they're very nice, and they give you, the nylon washers and metal washers. Metal washers have a little tab on them, but put it together the same way that they send it to you. That's all. You will need 2 wrenches to tighten this up. Again, it's a little bit of a pain. It'll screw on by hand. It'll thread on by hand most of the way. But then those threads are shot peened, which just means they're bunged up so that when you're tightening it on. So you'll need 11 millimeter or 7/16. We'll do in a pinch. And I just wanted to show you this little bit of guitar archaeology here. A Floyd Rose used to come with a wrench. This was the wrench that used to come with a Floyd Rose, an 11 millimeter wrench just for tightening up these arms. I have a couple of these still kicking around. Very cool piece. Have our sustain block mounted on. Make sure that you get the spring holes oriented correctly. Those little deals, they're angled, that they're drilled in on an angle. Plus, if you'll notice, all the excess brass points here towards the rear. That's where the room is. You can do it backwards and it's not going to work. Your spring won't have enough clearance to mount on there, and you can see, yeah, those things are drilled on an angle. Also, before you think you're going to be super cool and buy these, I'm going to put as much brass on there as possible. I'm going to put the L-shaped one because it's even bigger, it's even heavier. All the sustain that I'm going to have. Make sure that you have enough room for these, because oftentimes these won't fit. And this is for a different guitar. I didn't make the mistake and buy this for these guitars. I looked ahead of time and I knew that there was enough room in that cavity just for that block. Just for this size. Plenty of room there. No extra width in these cavities, but the room that we need there to the back. So again, 2 wrenches for your old school screw-in arm. If you like those like I do, make sure you orient this the correct way. We're off and running. I'm going to buff these pickups. I'm going to wrap some tape around this one and put these things back together and call it a day. I am going to put the Gotoh knobs back on there as well. So stand by once again. All right, my friends, time to wrap up what has been a long day in the metal shop of modifying and upgrading the Jeff Beck SL4X Soloist. So where'd I leave you? I had the Floyd torn apart. Got the screw-in arm that I prefer on there. I did end up changing the tuners, the fine tuners. I measured them with a micrometer, and what I found was the original Floyd, and you can tell this, a guitar player automatically knows this stuff by feel. They're like the fine tuners that come with the special series, they just don't feel right. They're thicker. The width here is thicker, and the overall diameter is smaller on the specials here. It's tough to see, but you can tell immediately. And also the tops of the specials they're a little bit of a convex, kind of a surface, semicircular elliptical surface there on top of them. So real Floyds are flatter. They're a tad thinner, believe it or not, and they're wider overall. So anyway, got those installed. That was pretty nice. Buffing the logos off the pickups, kind of a fail. The difference being a regular Seymour Duncan pickup, like what we have here, is a really nice shiny plastic. Logos buff off like nobody's business. Here, I was working pretty hard with the plastic polish and a cloth rag to get it off. I got a Dremel tool with a buffing wheel, and it's tough to see it, but here I actually kind of bent the, it kind of melted the plastic here a little bit. And on the other ones, because it's kind of a textured, kind of a dull finish on these Duncan design pickups. So what happened was when we buffed it, it made it shiny. You know, such is life. Got the knobs put on, that was nice. Now the real pain was getting the Alnicov trem setter installed here. Sorry, try and bear with me when I flip this with one hand. So I did end up having to go with some heavier duty springs, these red springs that I had, so that I could orient them this way. Because believe it or not, when you do the Eddie Van Halen, the kind of the V pattern, you get more pull than you get when you mount them like this. So the original springs didn't have enough oomph. So thankfully I had these on hand. So I went to that. Mounting this is really no trick. What you need to do is get your tremolo level, put this in here, mark it. There's 3 holes. I only ended up using 2. The front one is fine. The back ones, you're going to drill through into the pickup cavity. That's inevitable. There's better videos out there detailing the installation on that. Anyway, get your tremolo set level. Get this installed so the tremolo is just kissing up against it. And you can tighten your claw here to get it just right. And these are really cool because essentially this is blocked now. It's just moving because the bar is moving on the other side. But now essentially it's blocked, but you can still, you're not going to, you know, necessarily be doing Steve Vai style flutters and swells and stuff with it. But for me, I don't really do a floating trem, so this is kind of where it's at. But you'll see, pretty nice and level. Tips back just a hair, which I really don't mind at all. So anyway, we're done with this for now. We'll get the plates, and I have another guitar, spoiler alert, I have another one of these Asian made Soloists in platinum pink that I'm going to make a lot of these same modifications to, so we're learning as we go. And I did start with this pickup, the one I ended up kind of burning through and melting, because this one I don't care about. So anyway, this is the test mule here. All right, let's wrap this up. It's been a long day here. So as always, my friends, thank you for watching. I truly appreciate your support. Please like, subscribe, and comment. I still read and respond to all my comments. I truly appreciate the feedback as long as it's constructive. I don't even mind the negative feedback. Anyway, my friends, thanks for following me along this journey of the modification, the upgrades of the SL4X Jeff Beck Soloist. All right, my friends, take care.